I just love it, and I appreciate it more than I can tell you. More than I can tell you. I'm one of the lucky ones that gets Meals on Wheels. Well, it gives me a hot meal, which I couldn't make for myself inside. I'm not capable of doing that anymore at my age and condition. I cannot say enough for Meals on Wheels itself and for the people who bring it. There's nobody like them in this world.
Welcome to Meals on Wheels. Your community thanks you for volunteering your time. Meals on Wheels is more than just delivering a meal. It means joining a whole network of people, just like you, who help other people in the community to live their lives with dignity and independence. The information in this video is intended to support the training you receive from your Meals on Wheels provider. The topics covered in today's orientation include more than a meal deliverer, food safety, client monitoring, emergencies. Part 1. More than a meal deliverer. Meals on Wheels volunteers make up the team of drivers, runners, carriers, and servers who have a brief but meaningful interaction with the Meals on Wheels clients. Our mandate is to deliver nutritious meals to persons unable to attend to their own nutritional needs and who want to live independent lives in their own homes, whether they are seniors or individuals with physical disabilities. But don't let that fool you. That's just the beginning of what Meals on Wheels does. The meal isn't the only benefit provided. Of equal value is the fact that someone is coming into the house and interacting with them. As a volunteer, you go into people's homes on a fairly regular basis, and if something is wrong, you can usually tell right away. For people who live alone, I think it's a big thing for someone to drop in for a minute or two. Who receives Meals on Wheels? Meals on Wheels are delivered by nearly 200 organizations in just about every major community in Ontario. People who request Meals on Wheels include elderly clients who can't get around as easily as they used to, adults with disabilities, individuals discharged from hospital recovering at home from surgery or illness, and people with chronic illnesses who wish to remain in their own homes. Clients generally pay for the cost of meals, but many programs subsidize the cost of the service. Please check with your supervisor about your organization's meal cost and subsidy program. Clients should also be able to count on respect and honesty in your service. Anything you learn about the clients while volunteering must remain confidential. You may become aware of any number of things about the client's environment at home or their financial situation. But remember to keep it to yourself unless you need to report something to your coordinator. The service you provide should be non-judgmental. You're not there to judge the way a person lives or how their home looks. You're there to provide a nutritious meal, a friendly visit, and a security check. When you deliver a hot meal, remember to encourage your client to eat the meal right away while it's still hot. If they're not going to have the meal right away, be sure to remind them to store the food immediately in the refrigerator or in the freezer if they're receiving frozen meals instead. Food that is not properly stored can increase the risk of foodborne illness. In addition, should you notice that meals are accumulating, it could be a warning sign. Let the coordinator know to follow up. Food safety is extremely important to the client's health. If your client asks you to do certain tasks, such as driving them to a bank or doing errands, let them know you haven't the time during your visits, but that you can ask your coordinator to find someone to help them. Remember where your job ends. You're there to deliver a nutritious meal, brighten up the client's day a bit, and check in on them. Never give medication and stay away from errands and household tasks, such as changing light bulbs. We're concerned for your safety as well as the client's. Part 2. Keeping food safe. let's take a moment to discuss food and food safety at Meals on Wheels. The sources can vary at Meals on Wheels agencies around the province, but meals usually consist of soup or salad, an entree, and a form of dessert, muffins or fruit salad, for example. Meals can either be hot for eating upon delivery or for refrigeration, or delivered frozen for consumption at a later time. Your coordinator will instruct you on the types of meal your agency provides and local practices regarding delivery of specially prepared meals for clients with dietary restrictions. Where are meals prepared? Hot meals can be supplied from a variety of sources, but usually come from hospitals, long-term care homes, catering companies, and restaurants. Frozen meals are usually supplied by a commercial provider such as Appetito. Meal suppliers are an important part of the Meals on Wheels team. The hot meals in this video were prepared at Villa Colombo in Toronto, who prepares meals for a number of Toronto Meals on Wheels providers. Check with your supervisor for the source of your agency's meals. Keeping hot food hot and cold food cold is one of the main responsibilities of the Meals on Wheels volunteer. The organization has systems to help you in this area, such as special storage bags that will help keep the food at the right temperature. There may also be hot and cold packs available to be placed in with the meals. When you're on your route, remember to keep the meals in their bags and containers for as long as possible. And you should always replace any lids on bulk food containers right away. Take out each meal as you arrive at the client's home to guarantee the best temperature for the meal and the best service for the client. Unfortunately, many clients can be more susceptible to bacteria in food. So, keep it protected for as long as possible. With that in mind, let's look at temperatures of food, both hot and cold. There are certain boundaries to the recommended temperatures of food. Here are some guidelines. Cold foods or cold liquids should stay below 6 degrees Celsius or 43 degrees Fahrenheit. Hot foods and liquids, on the other hand, should always remain above 60 degrees Celsius or 140 degrees Fahrenheit to help offset bacteria growth. In most cases, testing of food temperature is done at your Meals on Wheels agency office before you begin your deliveries. If you're required to test the food temperature, do so with a proper thermometer, which will take the internal temperature of the food and give you an accurate reading. There are also requirements for frozen food, which can be explained to you by the service provider if applicable. If you're responsible for packing the food before it gets delivered, keep these important points in mind. Wash your hands with mild soap before handling food. Avoid handling food directly and use utensils for packing. If you have a cold or the flu, don't volunteer that day. Always close lids on hot food containers right after the food is placed inside to help retain the heat. Food storage is an important part of your job. Encourage the client to eat right away while the meal is still hot. If they're not going to, remind them to place the meal in the refrigerator or in the freezer if it's frozen. In addition, tell them that a refrigerated meal will keep until later that day or the next day at the very latest. Don't leave the meal at the client's home when they aren't there unless the office has instructed you to do so and you can ensure that the meal is refrigerated. Remember that clients are relying on you to deliver tasty, nutritious meals to their homes, but they're also relying on you to keep their food safe until it reaches them. Keeping food safe is your responsibility once it leaves the office, and one of the first things you need to know and remember to ensure your clients are kept happy and healthy with the Meals on Wheels service. Part 3. Client Monitoring. Interaction with a client is an important part of your job as a volunteer. That interaction can be a vital link to the community for your client. Sometimes, you're the only person to have contact with a client on a particular day. As such, part of your responsibility is to provide a security check for your clients, something that could save a life. Since you're often a regular visitor to a client's home, you have the opportunity to see how they're doing on a regular basis. When you arrive at a client's home, Spend a moment making sure there are no major changes in their health status. Keep an eye out for noticeable changes in the person's awareness or behavior, including signs of increasing untidiness or unkept hair or clothes. Signs of possible depression, such as slower movements or a low, monotonous voice. Severe forgetfulness, not usually characteristic of that person, or if a normally polite, cheerful person becomes very irritable or fearful suddenly, or if someone tells you that they don't need the Meals on Wheels service suddenly. Let your coordinator know so that they can follow up. Be alert to other trouble signs that might be associated with acute illness, such as noticeable weakness, a confused state, increased coughing or bruises that may indicate a recent fall or abuse or any general decline in health. These are all possible signs that something is wrong. Report any concerns to your supervisor or coordinator. Your office will follow up with the client, their family members, or community support services. Part 4. Emergencies. Ask your agency for its policy on volunteers and emergencies. One common possible emergency is the failure of a client to answer the door when you arrive for your visit. If the door is locked, call your Meals on Wheels office for further instructions. Never leave the meal at the door unrefrigerated. If you can see the client through a window in a house and they seem to be in trouble, call the Meals on Wheels office so they can take the necessary actions. Please check with your organization for its policy regarding clients not answering unlocked doors. Policies vary from organization to organization. If you find the client in a medical emergency, lying on the floor for example, ask the client if you can call 911 services. If they say yes, call 911 emergency services immediately. If they say no, call your Meals on Wheels office immediately. When you call an emergency service, be prepared to give the exact location where you are, the phone number where you can be reached, what caused the injury, if known. Do not move the client or place anything behind their head since you may not know the nature or extent of their injuries. If you find the client unconscious, do not move them but call 911 immediately. Keep the client warm by covering them with a blanket or whatever is available. After an emergency like this, make sure you call the Meals on Wheels office right away and report the situation. Give your route number, any problems, observations, or comments at that time. The client's emergency contact person is notified by the Meals on Wheels office in these situations. Remember, this material is available in your own information kit from your Meals on Wheels agency. This brings us to the end of this portion of your training. Your coordinator will provide you with additional training particular to your agency. As you can see, a Meals on Wheels volunteer is a vital link for the client to the community. As a Meals on Wheels volunteer, you'll have the satisfaction of knowing you've made a positive difference in the lives of many people. But don't take our word for it. You'll see the difference it makes in your client's smile. Please remember, your Meals on Wheels office will have more material on what you've seen in this video. And ask questions. It's the best way to learn about the service. Thanks for watching, and thank you for volunteering with our community agency. We cannot do this work without you. This orientation video is brought to you by the Ontario Community Support Association and Meals on Wheels Providers of Ontario, with funding provided by Meridian Credit Union.